Are you wondering why dentistry is one of the most common professions linked to high suicide rates? Like six-figure job, working a couple days a week, you're helping people, and you get to do whatever you want, right? Wrong. Dentistry is a profession where the expectations nowadays do not meet the reality. Sure, there are dentists out there who are doing everything that I described before and they love their life, but in 2023, these types of dentists are the minority. The majority of dentists today actually hate their jobs and they are struggling. Hate might be a strong word, but a lot of them have a negative association with the career that they chose. This is alarming. I found here in the article from the Journal of Affective Disorders that the risk of suicide is increased among health professionals. All of these suicide rates are much higher than the national average. I will say, I did not get suicidal thoughts as a dentist. However, I did go to a dark place mentally early in my career, and it terrified me. Most people talk about this in theory. Actually, a lot of people don't talk about this at all, but I wanted to be one of the people who got a little bit more vulnerable about their story. I want to dive into each of the variables that play into why a lot of dentists consider taking their life. I want to use my stories as a reference point so that way you can know what truly does happen to a dentist and be fully aware that there are other dentists out there who have worse experiences than I do, and there are also some that have better ones. This isn't meant to be judgment, it's just meant to share and give you perspective. I also want to share with you at the end of this video what my prediction as to what dentistry is going to look like in the future. I promise you no one has ever predicted this before, and I'm probably the only person that's ever said it out loud. Would you enjoy going to work every day if you hated the way things were done? This is very common in dentistry. So something that happens in dentistry, and one thing that happened to me was I'm an associate and I work for a practice owner. Now, I go to work every day and I try to work as hard as I can. I try to also recommend the best level of care to my patients. And what gets really frustrating sometimes is I will recommend expensive treatment to patients because it can truly improve their life. But then when I go to see that they accepted the treatment and scheduled, they ended up on the owner's schedule instead of mine. This left me really confused because they were a brand new patient and they had never met the owner. I was the only dentist that they met, and we had a really good rapport, and they were really excited to do treatment with me. So my question was, why aren't they on my schedule? So I asked the front desk why this patient was not on my schedule and why it was on the owner's. And they told me that they were instructed by the owner to make sure that the owner's schedule was full and prioritize more expensive treatment to be with the owner instead of with me. So I didn't really know what to do. I was afraid to confront the owner, but after a couple of days, I got the courage to sit down and talk with him, and I asked him about it. And he completely denied that he ever gave this instruction. He said to my face that he believes that the associate should be busy because in that situation, everybody wins. And I agreed with him, but that patient still stayed on his schedule and not mine. And it wasn't until after I left this job for a variety of other reasons was that the manager of the practice actually reached out to me and told me that they were proud of me for leaving the practice because they don't agree with how the owner's running the practice and that he was in fact poaching patients from the associates. I was one of 3 associates in this practice and he was doing this to everybody else. And it turns out this is very common in dentistry. Another example of a toxic work environment was a little bit different. I was working at a practice and I really wanted to level up my skills as a clinician. So I actually went to the owner and I told him, I said, hey, I'm going to invest in these courses. Is it cool if I take them and then implement the procedures? And then at the time, the owner said, yeah, sure, go for it. So I did. Took out my own money, paid for these courses, learned these treatments, came back to try to do the procedures. And then when I had a couple patients lined up to treat, the owner actually told me that I wasn't allowed to do these procedures and that I should focus on basic procedures. I was shocked. I ended up leaving this practice and moving across the country to go somewhere where the practice supported me. So this much turnover and this much trust breaking can lead to self-doubt and questioning if the profession is even right for me. Like I sacrificed the early half of my 20s to learn how to be a dentist. And I went into $500,000 of student debt just for this. If you have dental insurance and you think it should pay for all the work that you need done, you're wrong. You see, dental insurance is just a discount coupon program that has blackout dates. It does not work the same as health insurance. People pay $20 a month and they get $2,000 in coverage for the year on select procedures, and people think it's some unlimited plan. Guys, insurance rates hasn't changed in 20 years. What I mean by insurance rates is how much insurance pay dentists for the work that they do. You know what has changed in 20 years? Literally everything. The cost to do business, the cost of materials, the cost of school to become a dentist, and the cost to live. So I want to run numbers by you guys real quick. So $1,800 today is the equivalent of what $1,000 was 20 years ago, right? So if $2,000 in dental coverage was established 20 years ago, today that should be $3,692. But it's not like that. It's still just $2,000. This is how dental insurance has completely wrecked the field of dentistry by limiting the income potential for a lot of dentists who accept insurance. Let's go one step further. You know what else doesn't make sense? 2 patients walk into the practice. One has insurance, the other one doesn't. Both patients need a crown. The same materials are used for both crowns. The same dentist is doing the work for both crowns. The same crowns take the same amount of time to do. The experience for the patient is exactly the same, except except the dentist gets paid 2 different prices to do the same work required. If a patient doesn't have insurance, the dentist will get around $1,500. If the patient does have insurance, the dentist will get on average $700 to $800. How does this make sense? So when you're grinding as a dentist and you're doing detail-oriented work and you're working in humans' mouths every single day and you're working where every fraction of a millimeter matters and you're still getting paid like it's $19.99, that takes a toll on you. The cost doesn't match the end product, plain and simple. Let me ask you a question. Would you take out $500,000 in loans to go into a profession where you got to experience an insane amount of mental, physical, and emotional stress? Probably not, right? Well, that's what most dentists do. So let's talk about the physical stress. For me, I was about 3 years into my career and I was working about 5 days a week. I was putting in so much effort and energy to being the best dentist possible and I was crushing it. But it really freaked me out one day because I wasn't necessarily taking care of my body on a regular basis because I was so busy with work. One morning I woke up and I could not move my neck. And if I tried to lift my neck up, it would not move. And if I did, it was in excruciating pain. I had frozen neck. I took a bunch of Advil to hopefully calm it down. It barely worked. I couldn't rotate my neck. Turns out this came from the physical stress that dentistry was putting on me. So let's dive into the mental stress that happens in dentistry. So not many people know this, but dentists have a million things going on in their heads at once whenever they're practicing. There was a time in my career, probably about 4 years in, where I had a lot of things going on. I was doing a lot of procedures and I was the lead doc in an office. So a lot of the staff was reporting to me. I was trying to build out systems to make everything simplified, but it was really hard to do so because I didn't have any experience with building systems in a dental practice. So I was kind of doing everything on the fly. So I would be sitting down working on a patient and in my head, I'm thinking about what lab cases did or didn't come in. I was thinking about the patient in the chair that I was working on. I was also thinking about the exams that I had to do in the 2 rooms of hygiene. And I was thinking about if I actually got paid for the work that I was doing. That is not the best way to practice, I know, but it is how so many dentists practice. And that is so taxing. Let's go into the emotional stress. So a lot of dentists experience emotional stress because at the end of the day, we are caring for other people. And I felt really bad for a patient because they came in and they had issues with their 2 front teeth, but the roots on their teeth were very short. So these teeth could not be saved. And I had to tell this patient that they were going to lose their front teeth. And before I could even tell them that there were options to replace them, they were just bawling in the chair. And this sucked because I had to be the person to tell them that. And it wasn't their fault, but this was their reality. There's not enough coaching or tips out there that people can give to dentists to teach them how to actually deal with this emotional stress. But it's something that we all go through. So the stress in dentistry is all encompassing. You can't hide from it and it comes with the profession. There are things that you can do to manage the stress, but it's on you and how much you value the solution to the problem. All right, so let's dive into the inflexible schedules. If you thought dentistry was a field where you could work a couple days, have weekends off to enjoy yourself, you're wrong. So the most amount of days that I worked as a dentist was 6. I took a job where the owner actually wanted me to work every single Saturday a month. I genuinely thought he was joking, but he was serious. I ultimately was super desperate for a job, so we agreed that I would work 2 Saturdays a month, which in itself is still wild to me. Like, I didn't go to school for all those years to work on the freaking weekends. That's not the point. The point was to be able to work and enjoy my time off. And Saturday is my favorite day of the week, but I did it anyways. Oh yeah. And then I worked for this guy and I took courses and I was, ready to start doing more procedures with him. But to take those courses, I had to take some of those Saturdays off. And I gave him a heads up about this. And he knew that I was doing this and he supported it because he said, the more treatment you can do, the better it is. And I said, great. Turns out when I was not working on some Saturdays because I was at this course, he had found a replacement. I didn't know that, but he texted me on my day off and said that I was no longer needed at the practice because he found somebody who would work every Saturday. And to that, I was shocked because I had been working for him for almost a year at that point. And yeah, he dropped me just like that. So when I ultimately moved to Texas, the norm is for people to work 4 days a week. That seemed a lot more aligned with what I expected out of dentistry. But in the Northeast, people working 6 days a week is like normalized. So yeah, I think working 6 days a week is absolutely crazy when you're a dentist. Do you know how much money dentists make when they go on vacation? $0. Yeah, dentists don't get any paid time off. I didn't know that before I became a dentist, but now that I do, it really shakes things up. The first time I found out about this was when I wanted to go on vacation to propose to my girlfriend. And so I was planning the trip out and I was thinking like, oh, it'll be great. Like I'll probably just use a couple days of PTO. And then when I requested the days off, the owner had told me that it was totally fine and that I could make the days up if I wanted to. And I was kind of confused because I was like, why would I want to make up days if I am getting PTO? And then he explained to me that there's no paid time off. If you're not working and you're not generating any money, you don't get any money. This blew my mind, but it's reality. So dentistry is a commission-based job through and through. That means you only get paid for what you sell and ultimately do. Yes, dentists have to sell their services. I made an entire video about it and I go into detail as to why dentists should get good at it. Go check that out. job. These are just one of the many things that dentists struggle with when it comes to financial stress. And so one of the shocks to me was that I thought that if I sacrificed time in my 20s to work hard and get this career, that I would have a very fulfilling life after. I thought it was guaranteed. A lot of dentists do have fulfilling lives, but they have to do a lot of different things to get there. So when do you get to enjoy your life as a dentist? Well, it depends on you as a person. You have a choice. You can choose to enjoy your life now, or you can keep sacrificing and enjoy it later. Don't let anything stop you from doing what you believe is truly the right thing to do. I believe that you should enjoy your life now because tomorrow isn't guaranteed. And with that mindset, that's how I changed the trajectory of my career. You see, after I learned how to do a procedure that was able to give me more time, money, and fulfillment, I went on to teach that procedure to fellow colleagues and shared this information with them. And that has allowed me to have another source of income to supplement clinical dentistry. So today I work 2 days a week and I focus the rest of my time building content and supporting doctors in the program that I created. And I believe this is going to be a very viable career path going forward. I also think that part-time dentistry is going to be normalized in the future because to have to go through all the things that I just listed full-time, it's no wonder why so many dentists hate what they do and debate whether or not they want to take their life. Dentistry is not sustainable full-time, and there needs to be more changes and more people willing to step out of the way things were done and start being innovative about how things can be. If you enjoyed this video or found any value, please share this on your social media page or share it with someone who you think it may benefit. I'm grateful for you to take the time to watch this video. My YouTube channel right now has around 580 followers, and I'm hoping that changes because I plan on continuing to bring high value content to you. Thanks for watching. Please drill that like and subscribe button, and I'll see you in the next video.